It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Well, hello there. Howdy ho there. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman, as always. Thank you for joining us. We've got Liz Butcher here today. Liz is from Australia, and she's an author. She's got a new book out called LeRoux Manor, spelled L-E-R-O-U-X. And as she tells us, it's in the young adult horror genre. She's also got another book out called Fate's Fury. And she'll talk to us about writing and about life in Australia and what one needs to do if they want to self-publish their work. After the interview, we've got 2 tracks to play. First one is a music X-ray submission called Sooner or Later by Don Carnevale. And then we've got a music submission called You by ChloA, spelled C-H-L-O-A. She's a very good singer-songwriter, and we're always happy to play great music on the Douglas Coleman Show. So, we will be right back with Liz Butcher.
You're listening to Mr. Smooth and Savvy right here on the Douglas Coleman Show. We'll be right back after these commercial messages.
Hi there, this is Stuart Epps, record producer. This is my story about Elton John, working with him in those early years, going back to 1967 at Dick James, all the amazing tours, those first recordings, going through to Rocket Records, and it's an amazing story about his incredible rise to stardom and my part in that. So look forward to taking you on that journey. So here we go. Yeah, and to order this great audio CD, please just email me at stuartepps@talk21.com. That's Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T, Epps, E-P-P-S, at talk, T-A-L-K, 21 in figures.com. Stuart Epps at talk21.com. Email me and I'll give you all the details for buying this brilliant audio disc. Thank you, bye.
DJC Music and DJC Productions are pleased to announce a brand new website. We have started a listing website for radio show hosts as well as potential show guests. This is a meeting site where hosts and guests can come together. Show hosts can list their show and types of guests they're interested in booking. Potential guests can list their talents, bio, accomplishments, or anything they feel makes them an interesting radio show guest. There are no recurrent payments, only a one-time $5 listing fee. Your listing will stay up until you decide to cancel. Previous guests of the Douglas Coleman Show are welcome to submit their guest listing free of charge. Go to radiohostsandguests.com. That's radiohostsandguests.com.
Tired of living in a culture of lies, fake news, and alternative facts? The Pro-Truth Pledge reverses the tide of lies by calling on politicians, and everyone else, to commit to truth-oriented behaviors. The pledge asks signees to commit to 12 behaviors that research in behavioral science shows lead to truthfulness, such as clarifying one's opinions and the facts, citing one's sources, and celebrating people who update their beliefs toward the truth. Private citizens who sign the pledge get the benefit of contributing to a more truth-oriented society. Public figures get more substantive rewards for signing the pledge in the form of positive media and public recognition. The pledge crowdsources the truth by asking volunteers to evaluate the statements of public figures who sign the pledge. Take the pledge, demand that your elected representatives do so, and encourage your friends to take it at protruthpledge.org.
Are you an independent musician? How would you like to have your songs played on hundreds of radio stations just like the one you're listening to right now? Join MusicSubmit.com and we'll promote your music to radio stations and blogs in your genre. It's free to set up your account, and we guarantee your music will be considered for airplay by radio stations worldwide. Why not sign up today? It's free. MusicSubmit.com. Radio promotion for indie musicians.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Liz Butcher. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, doing well. Thank you very much. As we were just talking about before we got on, you're calling from Australia, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
How's things in Australia, with specifically with the coronavirus? Because you're the first person I've had on the show from Australia since this whole pandemic happened. How is it down there?
It's up and down, I think. Our sort of state had been doing pretty well, but we've had an increase in cases in recent weeks, which isn't great. They're all been traceable. They know where they all sort of stem from. Down south, it's much worse. They're still under really severe restrictions and lockdowns. But I think like everywhere else, we're just sort of taking it one day at a time. It's pretty much all you can do.
What part of Australia are you in?
I'm in Queensland, which is sort of the east coast, northeast coast.
Northeast coast, okay. Near Sydney? Or no, my geography of Australia is not that great.
Yeah, so Sydney's in New South Wales, we're the next state up. So New South Wales is sort of central east coast, and we're further up.
You're further up, okay. What's the big city for you?
That'd be Melbourne. I love Melbourne, which is the capital of Victoria, which is south.
Yeah, I didn't know what was going on in Australia. I mean, New Zealand had something kind of unusual that they seemed to manage to get rid of it.
Yeah, they had no cases for, I think it was like 100 days or something
right.
Phenomenal like that.
But that's, New Zealand's kind of a long ways away from Australia. People in the United States think that they're right next to each other, but they're really not. They're kind of a long ways. Anyways, all right. So, well, thank you for coming on the show. I know you've got a book to promote. Your book is called LeRoux Manor. Is that the one you're promoting now?
Yeah, it came out this week.
Okay. Before you tell us about the book, just tell us a bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of your background, and then you can tell us about the book.
Sure. Well, as we know, I live in Queensland, but I've lived all around Australia. My dad was in the army, so we moved around a lot. But I've settled here with my family probably about the past 8 years or so. And just recently taking a career break from my day job to write full time, which I'm very excited about. And yes, I have LeRoux Manor, which came out this week, which is my third book and my second full-length novel. This one's a young adult horror story. It's about a young girl who has to move from Australia over to the UK when her father inherits the family estate from his estranged uncle. But as soon as she gets there, there's a lot of strange things that starts to happen, and she uncovers some old photos in the attic and discovers that there was a young girl that vanished like 150 years ago, the same day that her father was found murdered. So she decides she wants to uncover what happened, but gets a little bit more than she bargained for.
You said this is your third book?
Mm-hmm.
What were you?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, what were you doing before you started writing then? You were doing something else?
Yeah, so I've been working for a corporation here since 2012, and I started just writing some short stories that in about 2015, had a number of those published in anthologies, and then just sort of moved from there. So got a bit of confidence in my writing and improved my skills a bit, and progressed from the short stories to the novels. So just now trying to focus on making that a full-time career.
Did something happen in your life that sort of inspired you to start writing as a career potential, rather than, because a lot of people can write that just write because they enjoy it, but when people start to get serious about it, there's usually something that sparked that.
I think, well, I've always always loved writing. I wrote a lot when I was in school and everything. But I think it was more, I had a surgery sort of in 2015. It had quite a long recovery time that I think then I was really sort of questioning what I wanted to be doing. And while I do enjoy my day job, it wasn't something that I was hugely passionate about. And that's when the story for Fate's Fury, which was my previous book, started sort of bombing in my head. And the more I thought about it, the more I just felt I really had to write it. And while I was sort of working on that, I was doing the short stories as well. So the more I was writing, the more I fell back in love with it and just wanted to keep pursuing it. So it sort of just progressed from there.
Tell us a little about your other book, Fate's Fury, you said?
Yeah, so that was my first full-length novel. It took years to write, and that one it's sort of a mix of sort of mythology, horror, and thriller, and it's about three friends. They're in the centre of a lot of strange things that are happening. It's based here in Australia, and basically the Fates have come back to this realm to eradicate mankind because they've decided that they've had a gutful of how we've treated the planet and each other, and it's up to these three friends to essentially try and fight them. And then we have a group of ancient gods from the old pantheons that return back to this realm to join forces with man to help us sort of save ourselves, essentially.
Where do you get your ideas from to start a book?
Pretty much everywhere. I'm always getting ideas popping into my head, just randomly, quite often from dreams as well. I'll wake up and scribble down an idea from a dream I've had, but more often than not, it's just doing my normal daily things, and just an idea will just pop in out of nowhere. I've got a whole box of index cards of ideas. I've just got to try and find the time to write them all into stories.
So when you get an idea, when you get some kind of an inspiration, is it usually a character or is it usually the setting that comes to you first?
I'd probably say it's always the setting that comes first. I don't think I've ever had really an idea that's been about an actual character initially. It's always just, I guess, the main concept that pops in first, and then the characters sort of come later once I'm actually forming that idea into a storyline.
Because I've heard other authors say that they'll get a character that just pops into their head, and the character actually seems to take on a life of its own. I've heard authors say that characters write themselves while they're sleeping. While the author's sleeping, the character is busy working. And when they wake up in the morning,
I definitely get that as well, but I tend to, my characters sort of come secondary to my story idea. So once I've got my story idea and then develop the characters, once that part happens, then the characters definitely do take on a life of their own. They just kind of sort of come secondary to me normally. But it's definitely a strange concept, I guess, because it's almost like you're hearing voices, the voices of your characters telling you what they want to do and what they don't want to do. But they, very much do take on their own personalities and a life of their own as you're writing the story.
Are you self-published, or do you working with a publisher?
Self-published, yeah, all three of them.
Okay. Explain that process for somebody who might be interested in getting started as an author. Tell them the process about self-publishing.
It's a massive learning curve, so I'm still learning myself every time I put one out. But it's something that you need to put a lot of sort of thought and research into before you put your book out there. So you have to decide who you want to distribute through, whether you want to do just an ebook or paperback as well. Then you've got the formatting and your cover artist. So there's a lot to sort of think about before you even pop the book together. And then once you pop it out there, you've got to focus on marketing and try and get people to buy it and put reviews up. So it's quite an ongoing process. But the good thing is that you control everything. So you get the final say over every little detail, and it's your project, so you get to just fully embrace the whole process, which I think is really empowering.
Do you have somebody else proofread it for you once you think it's done?
Yeah, absolutely. My editor loves to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, which is great. So we go through sort of the primary edits and then a second round of edits, and then she'll go through just a final time before, and then I usually pop it out to a couple of people to do like an advanced reader copy, just to make sure there's nothing that we've missed before it actually gets put out there. So I think that's a really important process as well, because the last thing you want is for it to get published and then get reviews saying there's errors and things in there. So try to avoid that.
Do you have an idea of, let's say that I wanted to write a book, and so I start and I write it out pretty much. How much money should I put aside to, to hire people to do, maybe they have to do the cover, somebody to do some marketing, what's a realistic, even if you're self-publishing, you have to spend for other services, right?
Kind of like how long's a piece of string. You could put as little or as much into it as you want. I definitely probably spend a huge portion of any funds I put aside on editing, because I do feel that's essential. You have to have a good editor. So that would be, depending on how long your book is, but you'd be looking at probably $1,000 or more, give or take, depending on the length of your book to get it edited. People can pay hundreds of dollars for their cover. I'm really lucky in that my husband does my covers for me, so I save money there, which is great. And then marketing, again, depending on what platform you want to use. If you're using multiple platforms to place ads and things like that. So you could spend thousands of dollars if you've got it. But it really just depends on what your plan is and your method on getting it out there.
What's the average length of I've heard different terms like novella, short story. I've even heard a term called novelette. And, are all these different terms just denoting the length of the book, the number of pages or the number of words?
Yeah, that's correct. So I think just off the top of my head, a short story is generally anything under 20,000 words. And then I think a novelette's sort of 20 to 30 or 40. Then you've got the novella, which is, I guess, anywhere up to maybe 50,000 words. But most novels are generally, depending on your genre and the age group that you're writing for, anywhere sort of between 60,000 words upwards. So Fate's Fury, I think, was 120,000 words, whereas LeRoux Manor was about 75,000 words. But LeRoux Manor was a young adult horror story, so obviously quite a bit shorter. So it just depends on what the story is and what you're writing about.
You said this was your third book. What was your first one then? If we have Fate's Fury and LeRoux Manor.
Yeah, the first one was After Dark. So that was actually a collection of short stories that I put out in 2018.
Oh, I see. What was the theme of those? Were they varied?
Yeah, so they were all sort of horror, dark fantasy stories.
Okay, that's your genre then, basically? Horror, dark fantasy?
Yeah, primarily. Fate's Fury wasn't so much the horror, but most of my work does have an element of that in there somewhere. Okay.
Why are people so fascinated with that, do you think?
With horror?
Yeah, in general.
I guess for a lot of people it's almost like escapism in a way, in that there's so many horrific things going on in the world that by watching something that's scary that you can just say, well, that's just a movie or that's just a book or something like that. It's just a form of another form of escapism with fiction in general. And people sort of like they can be scared by something and then tell themselves that it's not real, as opposed to being scared by something that is.
Well, that's a good point.
But yeah. So, I mean, I've loved scary things for as long as I can remember, whereas some people just hate it. So I guess it just depends on the person. But I think, it's just another form of escapism.
Well, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of scary things going on in the world right now that are real, that we can't leave the theater and say, "Oh, that was fun," and then it's disappeared. It's here for
it'd be
real.
nice.
No, no, I agree. Your book is out now, Fate's Fury? Sorry, LeRoux Manor.
LeRoux Manor came out this week on the 1st.
Oh, okay. How's it doing? Are you getting any sales numbers yet?
Yeah. I had quite a number of pre-sales as well, which was really positive. And now I just got to work on marketing and getting more people to read it. But it's doing really well so far, so I'm really happy with it.
Okay, good. Anything else you want to talk about or mention?
No, I think that's all for the moment.
Okay. How about your website? Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, they can find me at lizbutcher.com.au, and I'm always popping stuff up there about what I'm doing and what I'm working on, and I'm always happy for anyone to drop me a line and say hi.
Okay, super. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show. Thank you for getting up so early, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
And best of luck with the book. I hope it does well.
Thank you so much.
Hi, this is John Morgan, Production Supervisor for DJC Productions. And you're listening to The Douglas Coleman Show.
I'm in isolation until I don't know when. Who knows if time will ever march again. I'm not so down, but I'm concerned. What am I supposed to learn? Sooner or later I'm gonna break. I can feel it down inside. It's a delicate ache. Sooner or later I'm gonna break down. You have a firm opinion, and you know right from wrong. That doesn't make you any better. Won't help us get along. And how many have to believe you until you claim the win? So long in this world, I'm in. Sooner or later I'm gonna break. A genuine feeling that I can mistake. Sooner or later I'm gonna break down.
you see any possibility of us happening? Tear after tear, year after year, you leave me with only my heart and fear. So should I keep you in my dreams and lock my feelings inside? Oh, should I tell you my fantasies and risk you to run and hide? Oh, I don't wanna choose for you, it's a game for two. I don't know what to do, thinking I'm gonna sue my own heart. Oh, playing tricks on me, yeah, my own head. Oh, for leading me on to think I could have you. Oh, 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 I could have you. Oh, 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 It's been a second since I seen you, and a minute since I thought about you, even if I wanted to. Oh, then you walk right back into my thoughts like that's where you've been all along. That's not where you belong. Should I keep you in my dreams and lock my feelings inside?